Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, we are going to get Brock's thoughts on the Scump and Hecz lawsuit, kind of talk about some potential new developments in that, and then we're just going to get right into the matches from the weekend, talk about those, and then do our predictions for next week. We had some pretty interesting results from the predictions, so you guys have to stay tuned later into the episode to hear those. If you guys enjoy this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. If you're on the audio platforms, drop that follow. Drop that 5-star review. We appreciate all the support. As always, you guys crushed it last week again. It's been a constant theme of me saying that, but that's a good sign. You guys keep crushing it with the support. Had a little double upload this week with a mini emergency pod, but looking forward to jumping into this one. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Brock, how you doing today?
Oh, fine Monday, nothing much to besides work, love that. And, other than that, didn't get to watch too many matches this weekend, unfortunately, but, saw the results of that one and, excited to, get into this podcast.
It was an interesting weekend of matches. The first day was very boring. It was quick day. But overall, I thought we saw some interesting results in that New York series. We kind of learned a little bit about them playing against Carolina. They had their backs against the wall, were able to reverse sweep, but questioning them a little bit. Seattle Surge, yikes. They and the control, they literally just like gave up a point for free on high rise that made no sense. Saw Zinni and Scump roasting them. Faze kind of showed Miami who was boss. It's an overall interesting weekend. OpTic really looked good. Toronto, continuing their form. Minnesota showed us something. So we'll get into that in a little bit. First, I did the little mini solo pod kind of talking about the lawsuit because that was the big news from this week. So wanted to quick hit Brock's thoughts on that. I mean, there's a lot to digest there. I also saw an interesting tweet from Scump. I'll read quick before you get into it. From November 15th, 2020. I hadn't seen this prior to recording. And I remember this tweet actually when I saw it. I remember this tweet being a thing and then kind of forgot about it until somebody quote tweeted. I saw Jacob Hale quote tweeted. And it's a tweet from Scump from November 15th, 2020. So right when the CDL was first kicking off. And he said, the CDL also made us sign a player contract in front of them without allowing us to run it by our lawyers at the player summit. It was a quote, sign it now or you can't play at Minnesota type exchange. I'm probably going to get fined for this too, just letting y'all know. So an interesting tweet that could help them in their lawsuit if they were forced to sit in a room and sign a contract without being able to bring in a lawyer could help the case of Scump and Hecz in this lawsuit.
Yeah, I mean definitely 100%. I didn't read thoroughly into this at all. You probably read more than I did, but usually when it comes to Scump and Hecz, they want what's best for the community. So, I'm honestly on their side, as a lot of people are, since the green wall is so damn big.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. Obviously, we don't know how this is going to play out. And like a lot of people said, the most likely outcome is probably like some kind of settlement, although Activision didn't go for the initial settlement. So maybe not. But we know Activision has pretty much unlimited money and resources when it comes to acquiring lawyers for this. So they have deeper pockets, unfortunately, than Scump and Hecz do, even though those two have some pretty deep pockets. But Activision, we know, off a day of microtransactions, they have more money than a lot of people could ever dream of.
Yeah, so that's just the tough part. Like you said, them going up against Activision, all the money and lawyers that they have access to.
Yeah, and they're going to be willing to fight this. So an unfortunate situation, but pretty much all on that. Unless you have any further comments on it. It's such a weird ongoing situation with so many moving parts. And so much is going to change probably every day for here and for months probably.
Yeah. No, honestly, I was just when it dropped, I think it was later in the night. I was just kind of shocked, like Scump Hecz are actively suing Activision. Like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, I remember it did drop late because I remember I saw it the next morning when I woke up. I remember I didn't see it the day that it dropped. I remember waking up and being like, "Damn, this is interesting."
I was kind of shocked by it. I was like, "Damn, yeah."
I was kind of wondering what was going to happen with the watch party if they were going to continue, but obviously they went forward with that, and it is very interesting. I'm very interested to see how it plays out because, like I said in my initial tweet, and like what a lot of people have said is there aren't too many scenarios where this works out positively for us as the community and fans of the CDL and competitive COD like this. There are obviously some scenarios where it could work out. Like if Scump and Hecz win the lawsuit, I don't even know if that's positive because, like I mentioned in my tweet and in the mini pod, it's like if Scump and Hecz win the lawsuit, uh, and get however much money from Activision or whatever, odds are because of them showing how unfairly the CDL has treated owners and them, the CDL would likely kind of cease to exist, if not right away, probably after this season.
Mhm.
But then Activision would have to, give out rights to the IP to a third party league like they did to MLG in order to run it. So they could just basically say like, "Screw you, we're not giving rights to the IP. You can't run tournaments using our game," and then
Mhm.
pretty much block a competitive Call of Duty league from happening, which would essentially, kill competitive COD in an organized fashion.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I mean, maybe there's a settlement that happens. They just settle outside and they change some rules and everything continues on. Maybe that's the one good way this turns out. But to me, there are a lot more scenarios where this turns out very negative for us as the fans than positive.
Yeah. Definitely agree with that.
Which is scary because I mean competitive COD has now been around since shoot like the modern era quote unquote is like probably Black Ops 2 on like 2012. I mean
Mhm.
obviously competitive COD has been around since before that, but when it really kind of hit the limelight, which was like where it got like real popular in streams and stuff was probably like more like the Black Ops 2 days. I mean that's 12 years ago. We've been running strong for 12 years, so uh the mainstream form at least it's been longer than that, but it would be sad to see it kind of just die out because of corporate greed.
Yeah. Definitely. And how many people that are so invested into it, as
Yeah.
we are.
Lots of fans, and yeah, like you said, team owners invested, players invested, would turn their lives upside down. Obviously, like tons of fans that, like, is our life gonna end if competitive COD ceases to exist? Obviously not, but it's an entertaining form. It's just like if you were a big fan of a sport, basketball, like you and I are big fans of basketball and football.
Mhm.
Like all of a sudden, if the NFL just ceased to exist tomorrow, that'd make me pretty damn sad because I enjoy watching football.
Yeah. Literally. I mean, yep. Just sad to see if it does spiral into this direction.
And I mean, like if the NFL ceased to exist, you could like nobody like technically owns the right to the game of football, so somebody can make a league. With COD, it's very different. Activision owns the rights and the IP to Call of Duty and can basically block anybody from setting up like stream tournaments, so they could like kill it much harder than like you could kill a sport.
Mhm. Yeah. 100%.
So very scary to think about, but we talked about that topic plenty. That sad topic. So let's talk about the matches a little bit this week. We'll just go day by day. There's a little bit less we can like maybe dive into them a little bit. So on day one, Miami versus Toronto. Overall, like not too much to say in the series besides Scrap looked incredible. Insight played well. They just overall like the Rio, you could just tell that Toronto were on a different level on the
Mhm.
Rio HP and then into the Rio search. They were just running at them down mid. 6-4 is actually probably a little closer than the scoreline really seemed. They were just kind of running at them in that map too. And
Mhm.
then the Karachi control, they take it from they won a round where it looked like they had like absolutely no business winning it, and then from there on, they ended up winning it. They handled Miami pretty easily. It was scary because then Miami actually looked decent against Faze later in the weekend, but scary for Miami to get 3-0 here, especially because that would put them on the 0-9 streak,
Yeah. Mhm. That
the
would be
0-9
tough.
streak from
Yeah. I will. Yeah. I will say, Eric Boom, didn't have the strongest showing, but as you said, they're playing major one champions that look
yeah,
incredible.
that's kind of how I felt coming into the series. I was like, if he has a good series, great. But if he has like a bad series, it's going to be a little bit tough to judge him because he is coming into an online match playing against the best team in the world. So, like, if he had a little bit of rough series, we kind of had to give him a little bit of a leash. And uh, he looked a lot better in the second series. I mean, once again, we talked about this before the weekend, but he did not have an easy weekend. Then had to play Atlanta Faze. He did lead his team with a 1.04 against Atlanta Faze. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but he had a nice bounce back series.
Yep. So not shocked, Miami, shouldn't be too hard on themselves for this match, but they gotta clean it up.
Got to clean it up because now you're 0-2, and we expected them to be 0-2. I mean, playing Toronto and Faze, we expected this, but you've lost at least 4 matches in a row. I can't remember how they fared in their last online qualifiers for Major One, but they lost the 2 straight on land, now 2 straight here. You're 1-12
Mhm.
in your last 4 series. Obviously, I know you've played a couple tough teams in the last 2, but got to find a way to bounce back. At least Eric Boom did bounce back in the next series, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Second match of the day was Carolina versus New York. New York kind of broke down. I mean, there was a point in this map. I heard Octane talking about it. I was thinking the same thing. There was a point in this map where it was like Hydra, step on the point and your team wins. It was like on a P1 late in the game. He was just standing an inch away from the hill, just like looking for kills. And they had like a 3 dead scenario where like he could have gotten like plenty of time to just win them the game. And he just like refused to touch the hill.
Yeah, I did see memes about that on Twitter.
Like it was so confusing. I was like, I get it. Like that P1 is a little bit hard to like soak a lot of time on sub base because they spawn so random and there's so many angles you could be shot from. So it is a little bit
Mhm.
hard to get time. But it's like, dude, like get on the hill. They had a bunch dead. Like it was free time to win the game, and they could have won the game there. It was like I forget the exact scenario, but they had like 2:28 or something, and there was like 40 seconds left on the hill. So plenty of time for you to still win the game. And then
Mhm.
eventually it just became unwinnable because like he sat off the hill for so long that the time was white too long, and then he just couldn't sit in it long enough to win it, and then they ended up losing on the next hill. I was like, dude, what are we doing? Like we are
Mhm.
trolling.
Yeah.
Also on
Yeah.
that map one, Gwyn was everything. He was going crazy. He is. I tweeted about it, but he is so good.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I would say, Hydras, it's gotta trust the teammates that are around you. They're not this scrubs. They're superstar players for a reason.
Yeah, I had Hydra is an interesting case. I heard them talking about this on the flank as well, and I completely agreed. Like Kismet was a stud in this series. 101 and 74 overall, 1.36, 18k damage, led the lobby. Actually, technically didn't lead the lobby in damage. He was like 50 less than Sib, but
Mhm.
Kismet's a stud right now. Sib continues to put up good numbers. Skies even look pretty good in the series. The interesting part for New York is obviously like they were pretty dominant in maps 4 and 5, really bringing it back. They pretty much handled that invasion hardpoint. Which, speaking of that, invasion hardpoint has to go. That map is terrible. It's the worst hardpoint map right now.
Yeah, watching it not very fun. Playing it not fun. Get it out.
I mean, the P4 is one of the worst hills I've ever seen. It's the biggest hill I've ever seen, and it just like you can't stay in it. There's so many ways to get shot in it.
Yeah.
It's horrible. But anyways, there's a clear issue right now for New York for me that is a big concern. Like he didn't play horrible in this series, but like with the way this game is set up, the sub is, it's hard to use, but Hydra is a superstar. We know at his peak, you could argue he's the best player in the world. At his peak, he's just not playing like it right now. I know the sub is hard to like get in their face and be aggressive with right now. Uh, you see what the sub can do on a map like Rio, though, this weekend. A lot of people running 3 subs. Shotzzy and Pred popped off on it. But it's just Hydra's just not the superstar New York needs him to be right now. So of
Mhm.
course they can beat a team 3-2 like Ravens, who are, not on the top tier caliber, but I still think New York's gonna struggle against the top teams unless Hydra can figure it out because they need him to be the absolute superstar that he can be. I think it's partially due to, the sub not being nearly as good. He can't play that role. Even if he uses an AR, the skill gap difference using the AR in this game we know is significantly less than like in a lot of games where if you can be a really good sub player, it's a lot harder to be that good.
Mhm.
I'm scared because Hydra doesn't look like a superstar right now, and I think it's a combination of the sub not being as good and the maps not being as catered to the sub, but also I don't know. Sib is putting up numbers. I just don't know if he's setting up Hydra as much as like Priesta and Kismet focused so much on just setting up Hydra.
Yeah.
Now I think
Mhm.
there are 2 players who are trying to set up in Sib and Hydra, and I just don't know if it's working as well.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And like you said, sub is harder to use this year, and that maybe falls on Hydra. Not getting the hard point. He's thinking, oh, I'm not playing that great, so let me get some more kills here instead of going for the OBJ.
Yeah, and like I say that the sub is harder to use this year, but I actually like it is like yes, the sub is harder to use, absolutely, you're right, but it is more like map dependent rather than gun dependent because the rival is insanely good.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's just a lot of the maps like playing with a rival on invasion. I mean, you usually see 4 ARs for the most part, except like certain maybe like little situations, but like in general, the rival is very, very good. Like you see it on Rio, a smaller map, the rival dominates. You pull 3 of them out.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
this game would be so perfect if so many of the maps weren't like 3 to 4 AR dominant because like the sub is very good, the AR is very good. Like you could have some very interesting, like almost like it was in World War II, where you had certain maps where it was 2 and 2 and 3 and 1 for the subs. Like you could see a lot more true flex play coming up because
Mhm.
like we saw what a difference true flex play can make this weekend in that Toronto series where Scrappy was popping off on the map 1, Rio with a sub. Like, we saw what having a true flex that can actually use both can do for you in that map. Like, it was just a diff. Like, having Kleenex, Envoy, and Scrap running at you with subs was just, I mean, not many teams are going to be able to handle it.
Yeah.
Kind of like probably how Faze will be if with Draza and, the Tiny Terrors. We saw them play Rio this weekend as well.
Yep. So, Hydra, I'm sure he'll figure it out. He's so talented.
Got to
And
get
like
more
you,
of these maps in there with the subs.
yep, and like you said, maybe Sib and Kismet or Sib needs to set him up some more.
Yeah, which is, I mean, hard because that's not Sib's playstyle. Sib is he's a very good player and he's very good at the playstyle that he plays. But he's used to the game being set up for him, maybe not setting it up for others. Where we know Mr. Assist Man Priest that was helping set the game up, and Kismet we know is like the man. Kismet is like, that's why he's like one of my favorite players in the league, because he is like, he's so good at setting up his teammates, like his superstar teammates, to succeed. But also like he'll just casually just drop a 1.36 like he did this weekend, while also setting up his teammates. He can like, he's such a perfect player for any team because he can just fully set up his teammates while also just being a complete superstar at the same time. It's just, what he does is unreal. He is such a good player.
Yep, definitely. And like you said, Sib and Priesta, two very different players.
And I think Kismet could be like if you did, like we talk about this sometimes, but if you did like a CDL draft where like all the players went into a pool and teams just had to pick, Kismet would probably slide. Like your Hydras, your Shotsies, your Preds, your Simp, Abezy, Cellium, like those guys are all going like first, but like, man, you could probably get like a late first round, early second round. You could like sneak Kismet. You can like pair him with one of those stud SMGs. Oh my god, Kismet just sets up his other SMGs so well. He is so good.
Yeah, because he's not the so-called, household name.
He's just so good because he's that like stereotypical like objective minded sub, but also like when he needs to drop a 1.5 on your head to win a hard point, he'll do it. When he needs to get that crucial 3-piece, like a lot of times when you think of that like objective based sub, you think of like a guy that like is gonna drop a 0.9. He's solid, but like can't rely on him too much to like pop off. Like, no, like if I see a point where Kismet needs to go get me 2, unlike a lot of more objective minded subs, like I believe Kismet can go get me 2 whenever he needs.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Good
Moving into
needs help.
Saturday, Brock.
That's all I heard. Good needs help with.
Yeah. Moving into Saturday, the Royal Ravens, they lose again. Unfortunate. They lose to Boston. Boston, honestly, overall looked very good in this series. I liked what I saw. I think there's a lot to build on. The Royal Ravens were right there in like so many of the maps. Gwyn, once again, somebody needs to help the guy out. It's kind of going to be the story of Royal Ravens, I think, for this whole season. It's like they look solid and can hang in, but like when it comes down to it, they just get kind of outclassed talent-wise. And Priesta looked very good. This was nice to see Priesta have a good series because, Priesta can be very up and down. If he can find consistency with this team, I trust Slasher to always be consistent, and Snoopy and Asim are going to be an aggressive duo that I also trust.
Yep. I will say before I talk about the Boston versus Carolina. Carolina seems to always choke these leads away. They don't seem to have the ice whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, they were 1-1, lost that control, and then obviously lose 3-1. But yeah, they had a 2-0 series lead in their first series as well. They can't seem to hold on to a lead.
Yep. But I like the I love the addition of Asim.
Yeah, this Boston team is good.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this Boston team going forward. Asim vocal leader. Like you said, they need more vocal leader because Snoopy doesn't talk that much, and I'm assuming Capital didn't talk too much either. So Asim's good slot there. Helping Snoopy out, setting up plays for him, and Slasher and Priest figuring it out together.
Yeah, absolutely. Second match of the day: Atlanta Faze, Miami Heretics. Heretics for a little bit here looked like this was going to be a 2-0 lead for them. They pretty handily ran away with that map 1. They were really popping off. Eric Boom had a really, really, really nice map 1. Lucky was playing his little cred angles. Metals was getting aggressive on him. Like overall, they looked very, very, very good in that map 1. Then you move over to map 2, and they were in the driver's seat for a lot of this map. They were up 5-4, ended up losing 2 straight to lose it. And then from there on out, Faze dominated them in the control. It wasn't even a game. Draza was just 3-piece world starring them. And then in the Rio hardpoint, You had Simp and Abezy running at you. This was, to me, that Rio hardpoint it's like the most, even though it's new, it's like the most predictable map right
Mhm.
now. Even though it was new going into the weekend, I just knew for the most part what teams that they played were going to win. Like I knew, like if Ultra and Miami were playing, I knew, Envoy, Scrap, uh, and Kleenex were going to run at them and just beat them. I knew in this Faze series, Simp and Abezy, you get to finally let them be a true sub duo again. I knew they were just going to run it down on Miami. Same thing on Sunday. We saw OpTic play LA Thieves on it. I knew they were just going to run at them with
Uh-huh.
Shotzi and Pred finally getting to play on a two sub map and just dominate them. The only one that kind of surprised me was Minnesota beating Toronto on Rio.
Mhm.
But once again, Vivid with the pace he plays at, and Lens and even Wake kind of just running at you. I'm not completely shocked
Yeah.
uh, with
Mhm.
that. The funny part is Accuracy was the guy that was dropping numbers on the Rio hardpoint. Uh,
Accuracy is back.
yeah, but Faze, I mean, Miami had their chance. To me, if you're a team like Miami, you had that 5-4 lead in the map to go up 2-0 against a team like FaZe. You have to close the door. The second they lost and blew that game, I knew FaZe was winning two straight maps. I hate to say it, but you knew it.
Mhm. That's how it usually happens with the better team. The squeak by the second map search, and the other team might get a little bit demoralized. Swept.
Yeah.
3-0, 250,
When you
184.
when you have a team like FaZe on the ropes, a chance to go up 2-0, you have to shut the door or you're losing. Like
Mhm.
that's just who FaZe are, especially Miami. Nothing against Miami, but they are simply not on FaZe's level in general. Miami, not a
Yep.
bad team, but they're not on FaZe's level. And when you have a chance to go up 2-0 on a team like FaZe, you have to close the door because you leave the door at all open. If you give a team that good, like an extra, like basically breath of life, I mean, they are going to take it and run with it.
Mhm. I mean, they did the hard part. Map one kind of blew them out the water by
Yeah,
100.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
Moving on to that last match though, Brock. Saturday, subliners finally bounce back.
I will say before we go that the real map is fun to watch.
Oh
It's the
yeah,
most bow cage map I love
yeah.
that. It's
It's
so
just
fun to watch
running
pros
at each
play.
other.
Uh-huh.
The search is kind of weird. It's just like you head bash top mid.
Uh-huh. Whoever, has the gunny.
Yeah, it's a little bit TDM. Like I don't know. I mean, search is it's better than some of the maps for sure that we have in the game. Like better than terminal, obviously.
Mhm.
But I can't complain about it. It's better than a few of the maps we have at least. The hard point though, incredibly fun to play and watch.
Yep. Definitely.
Even if the spawns are a little wonky, the spawns are a little weird on every map, but at least you just get to run around on Rio. You actually get to like feel like you're playing COD, where some of these giant maps kind of feels like you're not able to just like kind of run free and make plays.
Yeah, that is I fully agree with your statement there.
Um, Brock, this series though, we saw a Hydra bounce back that we were talking about. Finally, Kiz doing his job. Did maybe setting up the team a little more. Skies looked really good. However, to me, this series is more about Seattle. We predicted it. It was going to be rough for them. The roster
Mhm.
change makes no sense in game wise. Obviously, we think it's for ulterior motives here. Other things at play. Nothing against Brezzy because once again, I think Brezzy is a very good player. Had a rough series here, but I mean, the control, that play that we saw
Mhm.
Scump and Methods talking about on the timeline. I New
I don't
York
know.
goes to A control on high rise, so the point over by blue. For those of you that are forgetting, because trust me, I forget A and B all the time when the game's first out. But A point on control over by blue,
Yep.
like under helicopter, and they they hit the point. They only have like one, maybe two on to start, and Seattle's just kind of like Hooks running around flanking bottom. Brezzy's like playing over by like top propane, and they're just kind of like Brezzy like looks at two people in the point, doesn't shoot. They're just like giving them the point for free. New York captures A on high rise without losing a life, and they only got like two or three kills.
Mhm.
It was like 30-27 or 28 when the point was capped. Like, did Seattle think they were on offense?
I I mean, it's what it looked like. They're always were nonchalantly just, going out to the map flanking and whatnot. It's like, oh, we're a defense guy.
Like, don't get me wrong. On some maps of control in other games and whatever, like sometimes you just chalk a point. Like we've seen a lot with B on Invasion.
Mhm.
You maybe throw a life or two at it, but you're going to give it up most likely on a pro level. So you just kind of chalk it and play all your lives towards A and try to defend that. And it makes sense. On certain maps, you kind of maybe throw a few lives at it, 5 lives in, you're like, yeah, chalk it. We don't want to waste all our lives in this point because we're going to lose it anyways. That's not how High Rise is. High Rise is such a bang out map. You spawn so close on defense that like you're trying to just like make them waste as many lives as they can before capping anything.
Yeah. So, don't know what that was on the Seattle side, but it's not looking good.
It's rough. This team, I think, is going to struggle. Granted, New York, we believe, despite their struggles against Carolina, they still are one of our more talented teams.
hmm
But looking rough for Seattle.
Yeah. Also for Seattle, I just found it weird that they haven't said anything about Illy being dropped.
Yeah, they basically just like cut him out of the intro. Didn't mention anything. He hasn't tweeted basically since that tweet saying like you guys are tweaking. I was just on a lot of caffeine.
Yeah, it's kind
Uh,
of weird.
yeah, we hope everything's okay with Illy though. Haven't heard
Yep.
from him at all. Because who knows? He could just be completely fine sitting at home. But I'm sure getting dropped again. He's had a lot from where he was in his career. Like obviously S&D star streaming and stuff growing up. Gets a spot in Dallas Empire. Wins a world championship. In his first year as a pro player, you think everything's just up and up from here. Like especially as a 18, 19-year-old kid,
hmm
you think how could it go down? I mean, you're on top of the world. You're like, oh my god, I became a pro. I won a world championship. I got all this money. Then I get to sign with OpTic, like the pinnacle of competitive Call of Duty being on OpTic, and then all of a sudden you win an event right away when you're on OpTic, then thumb injury, you have to sit out. You try to come back the next year, you're instantly dropped. Then you have to switch teams, and this whole allegation happens, and then you're benched again, and it's a lot for a young kid to go through. So we hope Illy's all right.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you're so high up, winning and winning, and then the unfortunate thumb injury just kind of derailed everything.
Well, because there are a lot of jokes going on about that with like, oh, it's funny, like watching whatever he was doing on stage, and like people got their memes out of it. But at the end of the day, like Abezy kind of tweeted about this weekend with people bashing Arcitys. At the end of the day, these players are also people.
They
Like
got
sometimes,
feelings.
yeah, and sometimes like people forget that with athletes too. Like they tweet crazy things or DM crazy things to athletes, and it's like, sure, you're upset that your team lost or whatever, but also like at the end of the day, like, do you think that the player in whatever sport, esport, whatever, do you think they just wanted to lose and they just did it to upset you that they lost? Like
Yeah.
these are people with feelings at the end of the day. Like sometimes people got to sit back and realize that.
hmm Yep, fully agree.
All right. Move on to Sunday though. Vegas versus the LA Gorillas. This was a pretty entertaining match. Honestly, like I was entertained watching this one on the map one. Purge actually had a pretty decent map. Attach overall was kind of the story of the series. He was
What
incredible. He
patch?
has been very good all year, despite Vegas not playing that well. Attach has been very good all year.
Yep. Love to see
Uh,
it. We just need the other players to step up.
Yeah, and Geo like overall didn't look like the best this series. He had a .86, but he had some flashes where he had some nice pieces. Maybe still getting used to the team. But Purge with a .93 on the series overall for his standards so far in the year is very good. But Nero running it down on that Rio hardpoint, you love to see it. Overall, I was thinking Vegas looked decent in the series. Attached looked very good, but I'm left with a lot of concerns still because Purge still against a team like LAG where you'd expect maybe that'd be finally where you could put up some numbers. Didn't look all that great still, and Geo didn't look the best. But I'm willing to give Geo a pass for the series. First pro series might have been a little nervous, but Purge still not convinced on him at all.
Yep, fully agree.
And they completely dropped Standy now at this point, so there's no going back. They're gonna have to pick up a new player if they want to replace Purge.
Yep, or just stick it out. See if he gets better within the season.
And LAG, we think they're probably not going to make a change just due to the state of their organization, but it is a shame. I think this team is being held back by Assault. I'm finally ready to just, say it. They're being held back by Assault, Brock.
Yeah, he dropped 9 in map 3, and they all had 20, 23 plus.
Yeah, they lost 3-2 in that map too. And like he had a .7 in the map 4, a 1.12 in the map 1. He looked okay, but like this team, like Fame is starting to find a little more consistency. Estriel, he didn't have the best numbers wise, but the kid has talent. I like Estriel as a player. Diamondcon, we know, has been pretty much their best player the whole year. They had a little bit more consistent main over Assault that could maybe speed up with Diamondcon and match his pace. That would be a big deal because once again, also it's the engagements for Assault.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you have 144 or 147 on the side of Estriel, 153 for Diamondcon, 146 for Fame. Then you've only got 120 for Assault. I mean, he's getting 20 plus less engagements than his team in this series. That means the pacing's off.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting series there.
But like you said, I doubt they will get any player due to their situation. But if they did get a player, Shout out Gunless.
Yeah. Yeah, potentially, maybe let him soak up like a main role that he can just like speed up because he could play a main. We're always shouting out Gunless. I don't even know how he's performing in challengers, but I know that guy's a machine. He's good.
Yeah, we know he's still got it.
He's had some unfortunate circumstances with his last few teams.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Moving on to the second to last series, Toronto versus Minnesota. This was an interesting one. Toronto kind of jumps out, handles Minnesota pretty easily in the map one Skid Row, and then they take a round 11 search and destroy on Karachi. Envoy was really feeling at that map. And then they go into the control where Minnesota takes it 3-1 accuracy with a big map. Then the map 4 hardpoint accuracy once again with a big map to force a potential reverse sweep game 5. And then it was a 6-0. Just they ran through them. Toronto
Oh.
pulls up the series. But accuracy, leading the team in KD, tied for the most kills with Lynn's throwback series, like Scrappy tweeted Lamar Legacy series, which is funny. We love Lamar. Lynn's, that kid is gross.
Uh-huh.
I'm left with the series kind of thinking the same thing. Toronto Ultra, they are so good. They had a little bit of an off series from CleanX and Insight, and they're still able to win. But Minnesota, they're the real deal.
Uh-huh.
It was a tight series here, but Lynn's, that kid is gross. Vivid still has his vivid moments. Awakening had a 0.8 again, but there were more flashes. He's maybe finding that consistency and accuracy. I mean, if Lamar's dropping a 1.1 for your team, you're probably going to be finding a lot of success.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know we're playing World War II again with accuracy and Team Caliber.
Yeah, I mean, he was feeling, especially with him doing that on a map like Rio is shocking. It's so sub dominant so far.
Yeah, it is. Dang, yeah. If like you said, Vivid and Waking, do a little better, they win this map.
Yeah, that's, to be honest, pretty much all we have for the weekend because that last series, OpTic
Yeah.
smoked LAT. LAT once again a tough first series for this team to show what they have on because I mean OpTic is very good, LAT not very good. Kremp struggled, Afro really struggled, Ghosty and Nasty were in the 0.9s. Shotzi looked very good. Pred looked very good. Kenny looked very good. Dashy, they all looked great on that map. One Shotzi, 29 and 19 with the most damage in the lobby apart from Kenny, who was just dealing damage. I mean, once again, I know, shocking. Everybody, you and I have been pretty strong defenders of OpTic from like the just ridiculous scrutiny from the community that just like for some reason thinks them being a top 3 team right now is like the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
it's insane, but they looked very good this weekend, and it's almost like, wow, you get Shotzi on a map where a sub can actually be viable and like you can take routes and you can hit stuff, and the Shotzi and Pred sub duo works. Like I'm just so shocked. Like
Yep. We're
we
so shocked.
we knew that on maps that cater to running 2 or 3 subs, Shotzi and Pred would be a very formidable sub duo that could keep up with anything. And now once again, you don't want to put too much into it because they're playing a sub duo that we don't believe is all that good.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not shocked to see this. I think that the sub duo would have success on maps that are catered to subs. I think this sub duo would have very good success against most sub duos or look very good. Obviously, you're going to play like the Hydra Kismets, the Simp Abezys, the CleanX Envoys. Like they're going to maybe struggle a little bit against those sub duos because like those guys are just going to kind of trade back and forth with how good they are. But like, if we start to get more of these maps in the map pool that potentially allow you to use 2 subs more comfortably, like Shotzi and Pred are going to do damage. Like I know it's shocking to everyone, but Shotzi, he's a pretty good player.
Yeah, he is just not the route man, but he is a very good talented player too.
Yeah. No, I mean, once again, it's only on Rio. There are a lot of maps still that don't cater to Shotzi's playstyle, but maybe this helps him figure something out. Playing this map, maybe they've worked on. We didn't get to see too much else because we didn't get to see any other hard points from them in this series. I would have been interested to see. Looks like Karachi would have been map 4. I'd have been a little bit interested to see how they played on that map, and I'm interested to see this coming week because they do have some matches against teams that are pretty decent in hardpoint. Like we get to see them play Minnesota as well as LAG, which but we get to see them against Minnesota, who seems like a better team. So that's very interesting.
I bet you teams besides the top 4 teams, top 3 teams, every team's gonna ban Rio from them now.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case because I want to watch I want to watch like Simp and Abezy or Hydra and Kiz like square off on Rio against Shotzi, Pred, Kenny. Like, I just want to watch them run at each other because there's like Faze against OpTic, the raw gun scale running at each other on Rio will just like be very fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I bet FaZe or Toronto and NYSL won't because they'll just square up, but the other teams that aren't as good will definitely veto it.
Yeah, fully agree there. All right, Brock, let's jump into predictions. Last week we
Alrighty.
had a very interesting result from our predictions. You had an excellent week. You only got 2 series wrong
Mm-hmm.
for 10 total points. However, I got every series right for a total of 18 points. So to be honest, considering I got every series right, the fact that you're only down 8 really isn't that bad. But that's the first one of the year where somebody got it all right. I got all 8 matches correct last week. So looking to put together a streak like I did in like what was that major 2 or 3 last year where I was like 30 for 32.
Yeah, some insane run.
Yeah. So looking to potentially continue that streak, see how many in a row I can get right. Because going back to Major One's final week, I got the last match wrong. So it's just this 8 in a row streak we're on. But jump into predictions, same thing as we always do. You can pick the series, the score. If you get it right, you put either 1 or 2 confidence points on it for those of you that are listening for the first time. And then if we get it right, we get those points. If we get it wrong, we subtract those points. A bonus point for getting the map correct. And we each can put 4 points on one series. Brock, you have the veto advantage since I'm leading for Major 2. Let's jump into it. New York versus Boston. Great matchup to kick off Friday.
Good matchup indeed. I'm not gonna put too much thought into this one because I already know who I pick. Because MSL did the boy dirty, P Dog. I'm taking Boston 3-3-2 close match. Preston absolutely goes off, and I'll put 2 points on it as well.
It's a good pick. 3-2, 2 points, Boston. It's a good pick. This is once again, you got the Priesta drop from his boys factor. Don't have the data to back that up, but it always seems like when your boys drop you, especially in a situation like this where they drop you from the World Championship roster without even getting a chance to defend the title, seems like the guy that gets dropped always goes ahead and takes care of business. New York, I don't really trust the way they're trending right now. I liked what I saw from Boston this week. I'm going to go opposite of you though. I think it's going to be a 3-2 New York, and I'm putting 2 points on it, but not super confident in that. I just have a feeling it's not going to be the case of the player getting dropped. I think Hydra's going to have a good series. I think he's going to hear the talk of people saying, like, oh, you only played good against Seattle. I think he's going to come out. I think he's going to have a very good series. I could see these teams potentially squaring off on Rio, where I like Hydra to just run at them. I think it's going to be a close 3-2, though. I feel like New York's going to like win both hard points and a map 5. I think it's going to be a 1-0 New York, 2 straight maps for Boston. Then New York's going to win the final 2, win it 3-2.
I like it. It should be a good match overall, though. So excited to tune into that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to every match on Friday. Overall, this whole weekend, there are a lot of good matches on the board that I'm really looking forward to watching. Saturday is kind of, I'm not so sure how I feel about the matches on Saturday, but Sunday we've got some matches that I am really, really looking forward to as well. But second match here on Friday, excellent. Minnesota versus OpTic. Kind of another measuring stick match here for really both teams. Can OpTic kind of still establish themselves over a team that Minnesota is probably approaching that 5-6 range of teams? Some people even arguing they might put them ahead of New York. I'm not ready to do that yet, but kind of approaching the 5-6 range for Minnesota here. OpTic, we still think probably our third team. You think OpTic's able to hold off Minnesota, or are you leaning towards the Minnesota here?
Ooh, I know Minnesota has accuracy. He is pretty scary to the OpTic fans in the past and players, but
Just back on Minnesota where they lined up.
Where they indeed lined up, only one player is left from that team.
Yeah,
Dashy. But I do think OpTic will win this pretty close. But I'm gonna go 3-1, and I'll put 2 points. But Minnesota, I think they come out and win the first hard point.
And then OpTic rolls off 3 straight.
Yep.
Putting 1 or 2 on it, you said?
I'll put 2 on it.
Oh boy, I agree with you. I think it's an OpTic 3-1. I'm putting 2 points on it. I was between 3-1 and 3-2 for OpTic. I think Minnesota is going to take the control. I think OpTic is going to win both hard points, and and the search, which OpTic hasn't been the best search team this year, but I have faith in them to kind of start improving on that. And this split is kind of my thoughts on that here. I also believe, I don't know, I want to see this team square off on Rio because I want to see OpTic continue to run it down, but I think Minnesota may veto that because I don't know if they'll believe their subs can keep up with them. But also,
Mhm.
I just want to see like the blistering pace of like Linz and Vivid running at Shotzi and Pred. I want to watch that.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, then Miami versus Vegas. Another one that's intriguing because Miami is on a slide right now where things are kind of snowballing. Can they figure it out? And Vegas, can they keep the momentum going of getting a win on the board in their first match with Mr. Geo? Who you got here?
Man, this is a tough match. Well,
It is.
okay, I'm gonna go 3-2. Banger, 3-2. Vegas's way. Mr. Watach. He's too icy for the Spaniards. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll put
what
one
do you put on it?
point. I'll put one.
I'm going the exact same thing. I think Vegas in a map 5 putting 1 point on it. I think it's going to be a situation where Attach, I agree. I think Attach is going to have another really good series. I think Purge is going to kind of be there. I think he's going to be okay. I kind of think the same thing for Nero. I think he's going to have a classic Nero, super aggressive, like a round of 1. But I think Geo is going to have a nice bounce back. Not like a crazy series, but I think Geo is going to look a little better while Attach looks really good. And I think Vegas is going to squeak out a 3-2. I think they're gonna Neslo him. I think they're gonna Neslo him. Win 3-2. Miami's gonna win
Yeah,
both hard points.
I like it.
Moving on to
Ooh.
Saturday. This is the day that I'd say of the days, probably the day I'm least excited for in terms of matches. I think it's our worst day. Um, a lot of potential blowouts on this day, but I guess you never know. Toronto versus Vegas. From the outside looking in, seems like a potential blowout for the side of Toronto. I'm going 3-0 Toronto. Um, I want to put my 4 points on this one unless you're vetoing it and you're going to use it.
Um, no, you can put it on that one.
All right, I'm putting 4 points on Toronto to 3-0 Vegas. It just feels like overall Toronto, our clear-cut best team. Vegas, not bad, but towards the bottom. This seems like the most probably heavily favorite team on the weekend, I would say. Toronto. There are a couple other potential candidates, but I feel like Toronto versus Vegas is probably the overall heaviest favorite of the weekend. So I'm going to play the odds and put 4 points on them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3-1, and I'll put 2 points. Toronto's way, obviously.
Yeah, pretty much hard
And
to pick against Toronto until you watch them look vulnerable.
yeah, and I will give, attaches one like usual in the search. Pop off with them for them. But after that, if his teammates don't show up to top tier, they're not gonna win.
Yeah, this is going to have to be a case where Vegas somehow comes out and punches Toronto in the mouth, which we forgot to mention. Toronto finally lost a hard point to Minnesota this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I think they're going to have to come out and punch him in the mouth and like be like, whoa, get them on their heels. It's like, what the heck? We just lost a hard point to Vegas. It's like the one shot Vegas has. Come out and just
Yeah.
dominate them in a map once somehow and then roll from there.
Uh-huh. All 4 players on Vegas is gonna have to, have their superstar moment at the same time. They want to
Yeah,
win.
I'm scared for Purge in this series.
Yeah, on the sub too. It could get stinky.
Yeah. All right. LAG, OpTic Texas, another potential spot where I feel like you could put 4 points. I think OpTic, I think we see another 3-0 here. I think it's OpTic 3-0, and I'm putting 2 points on it. I just think OpTic, pretty much in very simple terms, OpTic very good. I don't really trust LAG. Uh, I think it's just going to be a talent difference. I think we see sometimes with LAG when they play more middle of the pack teams, they seem to be able to potentially get the job done because their teamwork can be good at times and they aren't a bad team. However, when they seem to play the teams that are, like top tier, top caliber teams like OpTic, they seem to just get outclassed when it comes down to it. And I think that's what OpTic's going to do here. 3-0
hmm
OpTic.
Yes, I agree, and I'm doing 3 as well. 2 points. I mean, no, not,
Ooh,
not 2 points. 4 points. Four
I was going to
points.
say, you're not using your 4 here is interesting because I don't think there's like a clear 4 after this.
4 points. Like you said, talent diff. After we saw from Mr. Assault, yeah, Optic is rolling them.
Yeah. Then our final match of the day, probably I would say, I think you would agree, probably our most questionable matchup on the day.
Yes,
Um,
is I don't know which way to lean.
it's Miami, it's LAT. Obviously, overall in the year, Miami has been the much better team because LAT, you could argue, has been the worst team on the year.
hmm
I'm going to let you go first in this one because I'm actually a little torn. I mean, there is definitely a favorite. Miami is the favorite in this match, despite how poor they've looked, but I'm interested to see where you go.
I'm gonna go Vamos. I'm gonna get a close 3-2 though. Round 11. We want to see Eric Boom when he has 10 in the search for the win,
Okay.
and we'll put 2 points on it.
Okay. I feel, overall, I feel pretty good. I think NYSL, OpTic, Vegas for my first day. I feel like I should be 2 for 3 on that. Toronto and OpTic, I feel very confident. If I come into this day perfect, I think I'll be perfect coming into this match still for what is that? We had 8 last week, so I'll be on a 13 streak.
Mm-hmm.
If all my matches go right, I'm going to go different. I think LAT are finally going to get a win on the board. I think they're going to beat Miami 3-1. I'm only putting 1 point on it. I think they're actually going to win a hard point in this series. I think they're going to win the map 4 hard point. I think they're going to lose map 1 and then win 3 straight. I have no idea why. I shouldn't pick this. Miami is the better team coming into this. I should have faith, but Miami's on such a slide right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a feeling. I think Kremp is going to bounce back in this series. He had a rough debut, but he's played the CDL before. The nerf shouldn't be that crazy. Maybe they were a little bit off because they were playing a team like OpTic, and maybe a little nerves from Ghosty playing his former team, wanting to show them up a little bit because there is a little bit of animosity, it seems like, between like Dashy and Shotzi and him, maybe.
Yeah.
I think maybe little nerves there. Maybe Kremp and Nasty had a little bit of nerves because it was their first game back in the CDL. They're playing a worse team now in Miami. I think they're going to have a bounce back, win 3-1. Don't feel too confident, but I just have a gut feeling. That's basically what I'm going off.
I like it though. I like it.
All right. Moving on to Sunday, where once again, I think we have a nice slate of matches, especially the final 2 matches of the day. I really am intrigued, but even this first one, Seattle, Carolina, 2 teams that are just stumbling. It's like I want to see who can, maybe regain some balance here and kind of start to stabilize and get a win on the board for the split. It's Carolina, it's Seattle. I'm leaning Carolina, I'll be honest. Even though it's hard to trust either of these teams, I think Carolina is going to win a map 5, finally show some ice, and I'm putting 1 point on it.
I'm going opposite of you. I put 1 point as well. I just, from what I see, Carolina just can't close it out.
Yeah, these are 2 teams that I just don't trust much to close out for either of them. It's tough to trust either of them, but I mean, you're just flipping a coin and hoping it's right. I could see this here. I could see this series going any map count for either team, and I would be like, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you tell me either of them 3-0 or 3-1 or 3-2, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm not surprised.
This is like, two teams that are kind of, at the bottom, struggling right now. Might be a good matchup for them,
When it's
overall
not like
to watch.
it's not like it's one of those toss-ups where it's like Atlanta versus Toronto, or I mean, like, or I guess like, yeah, I mean, Toronto looks so much better, but you know what I mean. Atlanta's talent is so high that you believe at any time Faze could beat anybody. It's not like one of those series where it's like, it's Atlanta, it's Toronto, like it could go either way. Like if one team 3-0s or 3-1s or 3-2s, I'm not going to be shocked. But it's in a way where like both teams are going to be playing so well, and the other's just going to like get a slight advantage on certain maps over one. But like for this series, it's like it might just be so ugly and so bad. It's just who screws up less.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But yeah, we flipped 3-2s on each other there. It's an interesting series. But then, my opinion, the final 2 series of the day are fantastic series. Minnesota versus Boston is a good matchup because they're teams that we believe are kind of still sitting in that 4, 5, 6 range. Some people believe Minnesota's maybe creeping on 4. I still think they're pretty firmly like 5. Boston, I think, is probably approaching close to that 6 spot now. Very interested to see where these 2 teams go. Minnesota looks so good, and they're 0-1 because they obviously had that loss to Toronto. I have them going 0-2, losing to OpTic. They look so good to be 0-3. I just think Boston is going to get it done. Even though I picked NYSL to beat Boston, I think Boston's going to bounce back and win this one in 5, and I'm putting 2 points on it. But I don't feel crazy confident in it because Minnesota overall, you should have probably more faith in them than you do Boston. But I just, once again, ride with the gut feeling. I think Boston with Asim, I think they're going to do something here.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking Boston as well, but 3-1 and 2 points on it. Minnesota will, they'll win the search with accuracy, lead the charge.
That's interesting because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the community consensus and most people's consensus would be to pick Minnesota in that one. It's interesting that we both went to the side of Boston.
Yeah, I don't know. I just really, really love the pickup of Asim.
Yeah, same. And I like this team a lot. And I feel like with this team gels, they could find a really consistent way to play a game that's so inconsistent right now. I feel like this team could find a way to make themselves super consistent. And I don't know. I have a good feeling about Boston. against Minnesota. I really think that they can win. I don't feel confident picking New York over Boston in that
Yeah.
first matchup. I really think Boston could have a 2-0 weekend. And if they do, that will be a big step forward because obviously they get one win on the board this past weekend against Carolina, which, whatever. But if they can start 3-0 after, the rough split they had in stage one, especially with a couple very good wins this weekend, if they're able to beat both Minnesota and New York, it could be an interesting turn for them. But we'll see what they can get done this weekend.
Agreed.
All right. Then another incredible match on the weekend. It's Atlanta. It's NYSL. Can NYSL show that they still belong in that top 4 conversation and take out Atlanta, or is Atlanta able to get it done, Brock? What do you think?
I mean, Atlanta online matches pretty good. They usually win a lot of them. Atlanta on land. You want to see the choke against these teams later in the stages. I'm going to Atlanta 3-2, close series overall. But I think I think Draza is the one to lead the charge, lead the team in KD and stuff.
Yeah, you said 3-1.
3-2.
3-2. Sorry,
I'll put 2 points on it.
Okay.
Incredible match though.
Yeah, everything is pointing to Atlanta 3-2. I've had a lot of gut picks this week, like a lot of more toss-up matches. I want to stick to it and say Atlanta's going to win. I'm going to go 3-1 and put 2 points on it. I think there's a world where New York wins this if they're really gelling and they have a really nice match against Boston, especially because like beating Priest and maybe Sib, kind of getting that off his shoulders of like this is the guy that we dropped before. We've been struggling with you. Like they're able to beat Priest and maybe like have like a team chem boost.
Yeah.
Going into this, that could be very interesting. I would think that could help propel them into this match and potentially get them to beat Faze. I just don't think it's enough to get it done. Faze are just very good. I would love to watch these teams square off on a Rio hardpoint.
Yep.
That would be awesome to watch.
Hopefully they pick it with each other and don't veto it.
Yeah, so I'm going to Atlanta 3-1, putting 2 points on it, but I'm very excited to watch this series as well.
Yep.
All right, that's it for predictions. You got anything else before we wrap this one up?
No, just excited. Get back to it. Watching these matches, some good matchups overall, and play some rank play here and there. But all the cheaters, it's kind of demoralizing.
Yeah, and you can just tell right away when you get in the lobby with one of them.
Yep, they don't hide it at the some of these ranks. They don't
I got
care.
reported for cheating the other day. You weren't in the lobby. It was right before you got on. I was playing with two of our buddies that aren't like the best, and then I was playing with one of our friends. It's pretty good, and we were on a Karachi hard point. I dropped 56. I went 56 and 14, and I wasn't even just like playing for kills either. I was just running at the hill with an AR, just getting constant 3 pieces. And one of our friends was like 13 and 26, no hill time. Another one was almost double -2. So like I was just running around having to kill everything, drop 56. We only won like 250 to 220. All the guys in game chat are like, we're reporting this kid. He's clearly cheating. I was like, damn, I'm about to get banned and I'm not even cheating. But thankfully, Activision doesn't ban anyone and they didn't wrongfully ban me for cheating. But I've been feeling good on ranked play. So yeah, it's been pretty fun to play despite the cheaters when you run into them. Thankfully, I'm not a top 250 player because I mean the cheating up there is just insane.
Yeah, and I just those types of matches are just so fun to play when you're the one frying everyone and it's still a close game.
When you run around, just feel like you're unkillable.
Yep, and it's like the most dopamine when they call you cheater.
You're like, well, I'm actually not cheating, but I mean, it's nice to hear that you think I am.
It's like almost a compliment.
I mean, it is a compliment when you're playing so well, somebody thinks you're cheating and you're legit not cheating. It's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, I will say my favorite part of rank play is the after you kill someone, they talk after. Right after. Oh, it's so fun.
And you can hear them like get pissed or something or think you're cheating, and it's funny.
Yeah, that's just the best.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for this one. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. If you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow, drop a 5-star review. We appreciate you guys listening as always. Have fun watching the matches this weekend. And we will be back next week talking about said matches and giving our predictions for another week of qualifiers. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.